Welcome back to BluOcean Talks. My name is Ron Efron. Today, my guest on the pod is Anthony Chow. Anthony, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Ron. Excited to be here.
Awesome. I've actually been looking forward to this. I've met you in the past, and I've been looking up on your company. And just for those that don't know you, Anthony Chow is the CEO and co-founder of igloo, which is one of the global leading smart lock solutions company. I'm adding the word solutions there because that's kind of what the impression I get. But is that a good tagline? Was that how you would represent your company in one sentence?
Yeah, I think close enough. We consider ourselves as a software-first access control company. I'm trying to avoid calling it like a full AI-powered access control company, but we do have a lot of AI solutions in there, and we can talk about it as we go along. The whole vision of the company is to create a world without keys, and we did start out with just a smart lock, about 10 years ago. But today we have a full suite of solution that covers from consumers to enterprises and commercial applications as well. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And tell me, were you always an entrepreneur? 'Cause I looked a little bit at your background. You obviously did the military in Singapore and everything, but did you
Sure.
always see yourself as an entrepreneur?
So when I first started, this was about 10 years ago. I had just graduated from the US. I came back to Singapore. I was working as a data scientist. On the side, I was running a small side hustle, and there was an Airbnb property in Singapore. So we rented a property, sublet it out, and it made some good money, right? So we figured that why don't we scale up that portfolio from 1 unit to 5 units to, at one point we had about 20 units, me and my partners. We're just renting it out, and like we had a full-time job, right? But dealing the friction of it, coordinating key handovers and who had access, and when a guest arrived late, you got to scramble to pass a physical key to them. And so when we were running that small side hustle of ours, we were starting to design our own IoT solutions to help us manage key handover in a much more seamless fashion, because we were all having full-time jobs at that point in time. But this was actually making us good money. It was actually making us more money than our jobs. And so we thought, hey, why don't we go out and just do this and scale it up? But as we were running it for a couple of months, I think close to a year, in 2016, Airbnb officially became illegal in Singapore. So you can't do it anymore. So what we did was then we had to return all these properties to the landlords that we rented them from. We made a bit of loss, but because we have designed an IoT solution for ourselves that made us smarter Airbnb property managers, we thought, why don't we go ahead and productize this and start a company selling access smart locks to Airbnb hosts all around the world. That was really how it started.
So that's interesting because you kind of became like an accident or an opportunistic entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that story continued, right? When we first started, just being our own Airbnb property managers, we kind of did the first pivot in our entire entrepreneur journey from running Airbnb units to actually making smart locks for Airbnb. And then eventually we scale up across multiple different kind of verticals where starting from a smart lock serving Airbnb properties, we went on to serving the general unmanned rental economy. And in the last 5 years, we opened up our office over in Austin, Texas, where we serve the North America property management sector, the long-term rental sector, from the single family to multi-family rentals. And today, across the entire business, roughly about 60% of the business comes from the United States and the North American market. About 20% of the business is in Europe, and roughly about 20% in Asia Pacific. Yeah, kind of across 8 locations around the world.
And are you still headquartered in Singapore, or did you move the headquarters to the US?
We are considered dual headquartered, across Singapore as well as in North America. That's kind of where the company is situated, and we have 8 regional offices around the world. Our offices over in Europe is based out in London, as well as we have a team over in France that covers our entire European office, and we have regional offices around Asia Pacific as well. Our location of engineering excellence is actually over in China, in Shenzhen. We have a software engineering team over in Indonesia, global customer service team in Philippines, and so on and so forth.
Why don't we dive into that? So tell me more about igloo. I come from the security integration side of the business. We work with a lot of multinationals. Their needs and solutions are a little bit different. But for example, if I just casually look at your website, it does feel like a hardware company. And I can see you're talking about AI. In the intro, you kind of pivoted to more software oriented, and that's great. And I really, I think that's awesome. But can you elaborate on that a little bit? So tell us about that journey. And because I personally know as an entrepreneur that doing both hardware and software is not easy, and there's certain challenges there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Maybe let's take us back to when we first started, when we were Airbnb, host ourselves. When we were starting to design our own access control solution to manage our own properties, we were looking at what was available in the market. And really, at the point in time, there were a lot of smart lock companies that were just coming up. It was August, Yale, and all that, right? They were all digitalizing. And we realized that while every other smart lock manufacturer were racing to add more connectivity, like adding Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Z-Wave, and all that, which is helpful for anyone who's doing integration at the point in time using connectivity as a solution. What we realized is that for the vacation rental market, many of the properties, whether it's a lot of them are in like vacation rental locations, right? Like in the mountains, by the beach, they might not necessarily have good Wi-Fi connectivity. So we had to ask a completely different question from everyone else. We had to ask the question, how do you manage access without the lock needing to ever connect to Wi-Fi and then ever needing to be online? How do you set a unique code for every new guest? How do you ensure that it expires automatically at checkout without the need for any, even making a single network request? So this thinking at that point in time was actually very unique. It went against the grain of the entire industry, but it was kind of the right question for our market. And from there, we gave birth to this idea called the algoPIN. It was our innovation that really set us apart from every other smart lock player at the beginning, right? This is basically a time-bound, algorithmically generated PIN, right? There's mathematically sync between our cloud and the lock. And so, once you pair it, you set it up for the first time, there's no need for any connectivity, and you can set a new code every single time someone needs to check in, because the algorithm becomes like the bridge and it stores information about what the lock needs to recognize to allow someone to go in. And this was really just a very simple innovation that we began with, but really sets the core foundation of what we call today the Igloo operating system, right? It's basically our platform that has roughly about 30 plus patents that were designed over the years that really forms this software, kind of credential layer that forms the core foundation of the access control platform that we have today at Igloo, right? But really, I think the way we went to market was really focusing on offline first mindset, right? The second thing that we added layer on top of the offline first mindset was to allow the party to integrate with us in an easy fashion. At the point in time, it was very, a lot of people were using Z-Wave and Zigbee to figure out integrations. We kind of went the opposite direction. We really set out to open our platforms very early. This was back in 2017, 2018. We were opening up APIs and SDKs so that third-party software could integrate with our platform, right? Because we realized that every Airbnb or every vacation rental platform, they were using different kind of software solutions to manage their end-to-end workflow. So we were not just designing, just a log, right? What we were serving our customers were actually a self-check-in workflow or like the operations workflow, and they're all using different kind of software. It's a highly fragmented market.
Right.
If you think about in Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, and all that, they're all using their own localized software. So what we needed to do was to open up our platform early on, allowing APIs and SDKs so that many of this software could integrate with us and they could utilize this offline credential that we have created, right? And this openness became a very good multiplier for us and enabled us to scale up our distribution through software, right? Rather than through hardware channels. This was really at the beginning. And so very quickly, we managed to get 50, 100 software partners across Southeast Asia integrate with us. And that really forms the core foundation of what we call, initially the platform was called the Igloo Developer Portal. And whenever someone integrates with us, we list them on what we call the iglooconnect platform. So the iglooconnect platform is basically an integration layer, just like how the App Store is like to iPhone. The iglooconnect portal is to the locks that we design, and we have this end-to-end solution that many of these short-term rental owners could use.
Do you charge for that, or is that an open
We
connectivity?
we have a fee per per month, depending on the business model. It could be a fee per month or a fee per seat. That's kind of how it looks like.
Tell me though, go back to the offline credential element of that. Can you if you can explain that like in the simplest terms, like if I'm telling to my teenage daughter what that means, because if I'm thinking right, at some point you need to communicate with, I guess, with their phone or something, even if the phone and the lock, there's some sort of offline point, but you still need to send something to the client, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. So think of it like the banking token system. The first time you set it up, what you do is you bring your phone near it and you actually inject an algorithm into the lock itself. Then once you do that first time you set up, then from then on, the lock and your server is mathematically synced up, is mathematically synchronized. So whenever you want to let, like say, Ron to go into the property, what you do is you go to the server, you say, I want to let Ron to go in from Monday 9 p.m. to Wednesday like 5 p.m. Then the formula will then create a PIN, and then you will then receive the PIN via text or SMS. What you do is you enter the PIN into the lock. Then the PIN itself contains information to let the lock know whether to open or not.
So it's a
Yeah.
pin.
So,
It's a pin. It's not, you're not using the phone itself as a credential. It's not
right.
like a proximity
Mhm.
credential thing. Okay.
Exactly. So algoPIN was when we started, and that was really just a pin-based system. So right now, what we've extended it is that from just a pin, we have now designed and developed this platform called the Algo Pass Credential, where you can now use multiple different vehicles or means or avenues to actually deliver that mathematical data point, right? You could use QR code right now, you could use NFC, you could use a mobile phone, you could use mobile wallet, and so on and so forth. And all of them will basically contain the same information to allow the lock to know whether Ron is the right person to unlock at the right time. Yeah.
That's great.
No,
And
we do something offline.
can this be used for a family? Like, is it multiple tokens
Oh yeah,
for a family?
sure, for sure. Yeah. So basically, it's basically what is a very context aware kind of system. It kind of answers, the who, when, why, and how, right? So the who is basically identity linked. So the who could be you, could be your kids, could be your family and all that. The when is when, so what time is the starting point, what time is the ending time, and we also offer recurring schedules as well. We offer all the way, maybe even, kind of a monthly kind of schedule. The why is context. We have a policy-driven approach to it. You can actually inject information like biometrics information. You can, like for example, a gym use case, you can even inject membership tiers and all that. And then the how is the last part, which is how you deliver it, right? Today we are getting a lot of, it's really in two different buckets. The first one is app-based solutions. So either via Bluetooth, NFC and all that. There's appless solution as well, which is pins, QR codes, or just a physical fob, basically, yeah.
Right.
So it
Right.
creates a very nice, flexible solution, and we can do this entire thing offline. And it's not just to one device, it can cover the entire access control solution. So for example, I can say, hey, in the credential, I want to inject things like, hey, Ron can have access to his room for like like permanently, right, for that whole year of the rent. But he can only access the gym at like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on every
Mm.
day. And because he booked the barbecue court for like barbecue pit for like Saturday, he can only access it for 2 hours on Saturday, And because he's like a high membership tier, as a nice guy, he gets to access a lounge every Friday night for wine. You can inject all this
And this
information into
is,
it.
but this is determined on the platform that the property
Mhm.
management company is using. And
Exactly.
do you also provide that service, or do you just rely on companies to kind of build up their own connectivity?
Mhm. Yeah, so we consider ourselves as the credential layer. So sits on top of our device layer, right? So the
Mm.
credential layer has all this information, all these different kind of ways to deliver like the information of who can enter at what time. And so what we then do is on top of that, we have multiple different APIs and SDKs to allow the party to build workflows on top of it. Because we serve a few different industries, and largely we serve the rental industry. So we start from the short-term rental market, and then we have the unmanned rental industry. So when you think about unmanned rental, you think about trailer rental, tennis court rental, pickleball court rental, which is popular
Mm.
right now, and kayak rental and so on and so forth, or even like locker rental. And then the last one is the long-term rental market, which is co-living, which is what you see in Southeast Asia and APAC. You see the single-family rental, the multi-family rental market in the US and in many parts of the world, right? So all of them have their own unique workflow,
Right.
management. Yeah, and so as a business, we have our basic platform where we provide access control management. But if you want a lot more in-depth kind of workflow, like say self-guided tours, you want to talk about rent collection, you want to talk about operations management, many of companies have built their own platform around it. They will then utilize our APIs and SDKs to integrate and utilize the credentials that we have created to allow access control management on their side. And we can do this completely offline, which is a huge value proposition to many of these rental properties. Mhm.
Right. That's great. And how was it? What was your experience of starting and building a business in Singapore,
Mhm.
ending up being a global? Oh, just before that though, did you
Mhm.
envision this being a global business when you started?
Oh yeah, no, I think the way we thought about it was that we have to think global from day one. Because suddenly, when we first started the business, we were serving the Airbnb market. And if you think about Singapore, there's no Airbnb properties here in Singapore at all because it's illegal, right? So we had to think about the Southeast Asian market to start off with. We thought about Thailand, Japan, which were large vacation rental market, and Australia as well. But as we started to scale up and we kind of hit product market fit within the first 2 years of the business, we started partnering Airbnb globally, and we were starting to getting a lot of requests from all around the world, from the US, from Middle East, from Latin America, property managements or like vacation rental companies that were serving 500 units to 1,000 units to like 2,000 units. They were reaching out to us and say, hey, can we ship our products and integrate with the platform to their local markets? It was a kind of a global mindset from day one because Airbnb really serves the global market. And so the first couple of years, we had to really figure out how to build distribution because it was impossible for us to be shipping devices and provide installation services all around the world. We had to partner good distribution partners and system integrators within their respective local markets so that we can reach and serve these clients and provide good after sales service support. And I remember, in the early phases, we had a small team. We were all in Singapore, and everyone wore 5 hats. There was really no handbook on how to do this. I remember I was doing a bunch of installation. I had to drive up to Malaysia, fly to Thailand over the weekend to just do some installation at the beginning, just to learn how that goes. I went to audit our first few factories over in China. Today we have a nice diversified supply chain. By the beginning, we were just manufacturing out from China. We also worked out from Airbnb at the beginning, because we were our own customers, right? So we rented an Airbnb, we built a solution, we built the locks as well as wrote the software in the basement. And, we have 5 rooms. We actually get customer feedback right away. Because like the lock were to fail, they will tell us and we can go and fix it and figure out how to get around it. Yeah, and so that was really how it started. We were just, really a couple of people really just serving the Southeast Asian Airbnb vacation rental market when we first started. Yeah.
How was it to do all this in Singapore? Was the Singapore government supportive in any way?
Yes, 100%. I think this is one of the reasons why we're still headquartered here in Singapore. We have a dual headquarters in Austin, Texas. As we went along, we actually got a lot of very good support from the government of Singapore, which eventually invested in us. Enterprise Singapore has a lot of schemes that help local companies internationalize. So, for example, when we first set up our factory over in China, we actually got some grants from Enterprise Singapore to set it up. When we were thinking about expanding to North America, and this was during the pandemic in end of 2021, they were actually very open to introducing us to multiple different city councils, like the City Council of Austin, Texas, the City Council of Miami, Florida, the City Council of Seattle. And we were able to get on Zoom meetings with them and introduce what we were doing and sharing with them our vision of setting up our office over in the US. And Austin, Texas was very welcoming to us, and we went there. This was during pandemic as well. They helped us set up our first office. They set up our warehouse so that we can distribute within the US. And this was all from introductions from Enterprise Singapore.
For those that don't know, Singapore has been very supportive to its local businesses in all sorts of ways, and I think a lot of other countries can kind of learn a lot from the way the Singapore government's supporting its businesses. In Austin, Texas, you're fully set up there. You have local employees and everything. I'm assuming you're not working with local partners now. You're actually doing more of your own setup there. Is that true?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we set up an office over in Austin, Texas about 5 years ago right now. So end of 2021. So we have a team that's based out locally over in Austin, Texas. But really, the wider team is spread out across the United States so that we can cover, kind of coast to coast, serving different clients across multiple different states. Because many of the large property managers, single-family owner-operators, multi-family owner-operators, they are nationwide clients and accounts. Yeah, so we have to have multiple different touch points across different countries, across the entire country. So we have been there for nearly 5 years, and we have a local team. We work with local distribution partners. We have online channels as well that we sell to Amazon, our own Shopify channel, Locksmith Network that provide installation service support, nationwide partners there as well. And so we were actually very lucky that in 2025, end of last year, we were awarded the International Startup of the Year award by Austin, Texas, which is helpful for us to build our brand recognition, saying that we are really here to stay and we are here to build our business with our local partners in the US. Yeah.
That's great. And what was it like personally to start working in the USA? The work ethic is different from Asian work ethic a little bit. And I personally, even though I'm an American, I grew up mainly in Asia. And when I set up a first office in the USA, for me, it was a little bit of unusual. To be blunt, it didn't feel like people worked as hard. Because that's not necessarily true. It felt like there's a lot of bureaucracy, at the state side, there's county, state, federal. There's a lot of things going on, and it seemed harder than what I was used to in Asia. But I don't know. That was just my own personal experience. How
Right.
was your experience setting up a business in the USA?
No, I love Austin, Texas, and it's really been the home for the business for the last 5 years. I would say that there were definitely a lot of cultural differences, when we first started. Initially when we were hiring people and joining us, we didn't really know whether we will get great talent, especially if we are a foreign company from Singapore and setting up over in Austin, Texas for the first time. Like nobody had heard of Igloo, right? Who is Igloo?
Right.
And we had to go through multiple trials and experiments. But we do have a very good, talented team that I'm actually very proud of that is helping us, do really good hard work over in the US. I think at the beginning the challenge was really thinking about like our North American team working with Asia Pacific team, not so much of how hard they work, but more of the fact that both sides needed to work at night, on
Yeah.
occasional days, like alternate days.
Yeah.
And I think at the beginning it was a bit difficult for everyone to adapt, and also language differences as well. In the US, everyone speaks English. Over here in Asia, some people speak Chinese, some people speak English, and a mix of every other language in between. So we had to figure out how that worked. I remember in 2021, 2022, we actually gave English lessons to our Chinese folks, in China, so that they could communicate a bit better. And in the US, they were also a lot more open to like downloading WeChat, for example, right?
Right.
Just
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
create the nicer bridge in between. I would say it's not easy. It's not for everyone. You have to
Yeah.
build that. You have to build that kind of relationship and momentum going. We have a tight team that I think eventually kind of worked out. It's not for everyone, I feel. To build a business that's across, Asia as well as the US, it takes a lot of hard work. There's
Right.
no shortcut to making this successful because ultimately what we're doing is we're leveraging kind of the low cost effort of building hardware in Asia and then delivering high value software to clients in the US. So I think there's no way around it.
Even when you're a small company, you're still behaving like a global business, and with all the complications that come with that.
Right. Yeah, that makes it a lot more complicated for sure. I've taken too many trips to the US, than I ever would have imagined. And figuring out the time zone differences has been a challenge as well. But I think what I would say the thing that struck me about the North American market is a very litigious country.
That's true.
Yeah, and when we were there for like a year or two, we were faced with a couple of different patent lawsuits that came our way. We had to spend money to try to figure out how to
Yeah.
overcome them. We didn't even like infringe on anything, but they
It's just the
said
way
that
it is. Yeah.
it's just the way it is, and you just have to defend it against something that you didn't even infringe, but you have to spend money to do it. So it's a high cost market to operate in. But I think once you get to a certain level of momentum, I think it's a good market to continue to
Yeah,
build
for sure.
the business in. Yeah.
So the hardware you're manufacturing in China, Shenzhen, you said, is that your factories, or are you working with local partners there? Because that's
Right.
not an easy nut to crack either.
It took us a while. That's why, we've been around for 10 years. I'm pretty proud of it. We definitely went through our own different challenges of like quality issues, working with different factories that did not work out for us, and we had to change partners along the way. So I think the turning point for us was in 2020 and 2021, where we brought on a lot more professional people within the company that has a lot of experience figuring out, building up, established and robust supply chain over in China as well as across Southeast Asia, right? That are experienced in the lock industry. So today, what we have is we have multiple different, highly diversified supply chain across China, Vietnam, Malaysia, Taiwan, and even in Korea as well, that we're able to tap on, so that for that we can deliver multiple different kind of solutions. Especially with the last couple of years with tariffs, and the uncertain situation in the market, especially with logistics challenges, we were able to be nimble and figure out where's the best place to ship out from, so that we can deliver the products to our US customers at the right time and the right price point as well. Yeah,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
so many of these partners, we have a combination of both OEM and ODM partners. The core competency within the company is to design our chipset, right? Where we have our firmware in it, our credential stack in it, that has our own connectivity, protocols, as well as our iglooconnect platform. But really, what we then do is we then find the best in class partners who are able to give us the best quality, whether is it a gateboard, a mortise lock, or access control solution, or like a padlock and all that. We then partner them, we put our chipset in there, we do the full qual check behind it, and then we package it as an igloo solution and we deliver it to our client. It's kind of how we do it, so that we are able to get to scale a lot more quicker, rather than designing everything from ground up.
Right.
Honestly, I think the access control market has been around for hundreds of years, right? So suddenly a lot of digital locks have been coming to market. So what we then do is we partner with many of these companies, and we put our PCBA in there, and we deliver this to our clients.
So you have your own team in China. I'm assuming a legal
Mhm.
entity as well and everything. You're set up
Yes,
there. Yeah, that's great.
exactly. Yeah, our Center of Engineering Excellence is based out in Shenzhen. It's very near Bao'an, very near the airport, and so the team is over there. And then we have about 5, 6 different partners across the eastern border of China. And the team travels around to work with them, and they also manage our diversified supply chain outside of China as well. Mhm.
That's great. So just to be mindful of time, because I have a few more kind of high level questions, if you don't mind.
Okay, go for it.
So first of all, what's the story about sending your products to space?
100%. So I think one of the things that we always were thinking about, what's the best way to, showcase this offline credential that we're designed, is that, if we were to send some our lock to space and we were able to unlock it remotely, it essentially just showcase this like very clearly, right? That even in space, we're able to remotely manage it without connectivity at all. And if it works in space, it works anywhere on Earth.
Nobody went there with their phone or anything, right?
No, you're right. Nobody went there at all. Yeah, so I mean, there were a few things that we were experimenting like. So to actually unlocking it, what we did was we just sent a simple GPS signal to the lock, at the height of the flight, so that it unlocked at that moment. But the other thing that we were also trying to showcase is kind of the durability as well as the
It's
engineering
temperature.
behind, yeah, the lock behind it, because at the height of the flight, it was roughly about 33 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Temperatures went down to negative 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And then, it was still operational, you can unlock. And then once it unlocked, the balloon that we brought it up with burst, and then it fell back down to Earth.
So
It's like
this is something you did totally by when I read this, I was
Mhm.
envisioning it was like part of like the Singapore government satellite program or something.
Yeah. We were thinking about what's the best way to send it out. I mean, we even dropped a note to SpaceX, Elon Musk, to see whether they can bring it up for us. But eventually, what we did was we partnered this company over in the UK. They were sending out balloons on a regular basis for their own like work. So we tagged along one of the flights. Yeah, so it went up, and then at the height of the flight, the balloon exploded. And then so we had the highest drop test ever for any smart lock company. So 33 kilometers, it dropped back down to Earth. We went to pick it up, and it still worked. And so we have
Where
like
where did it drop?
it dropped into a farmhouse in Sheffield, somewhere in the UK.
In a
Yeah,
farmhouse. Oh,
we picked it up, and it still works. We sent 8 of them up to space. It came back down, and then we have it showcased in our museum in our office here in
that's
Singapore.
pretty.
Mhm.
That is very cool. That
Mhm.
is very cool. What are your thoughts about the trends? What are your thoughts about the future in
Yeah.
general, about in our
Mhm.
industry and how will AI impact it? But if you can,
Mhm.
your vision for you for Igloo as well, like those two elements.
Sure. Lock site itself, I do see a lot of different kind of credentials becoming a lot more mainstream. For example, like biometrics. Of course, in Southeast Asia, you see a lot more of those, but you're seeing this adoption kind of going global. Meta is definitely one of the big thing, UWB, Aliro, and all that. I do think that this all coming to be a lot more mainstream in the next couple of years. But I do think that the big shift for the industry is really, the convergence of the physical and digital identity, right? For many years, the lock was a physical object, and then the credential is really a physical object as well. It's a card, a fob, But really today, what we have really changed is that the credential is really a data object. And that means the access control is really colliding with the whole identity and the access management solution. And I do think that this becomes a much more larger market that you can think of than it is today. And just thinking about smart locks as a whole market. And the way we think about the data object is really algoPAS is our implementation of the vision. We talked about algoPAS at the beginning of the conversation, but really this goes beyond just who has the key, right? Who has the fob, to really, the why and the when and how it should be delivered, and all the data that is necessary to inform the lock to unlock at what time and to who can all be stored in this data itself in the credential layer. It provides a context to it. And I do think that this is where at Igloo we are really continuously designing our solutions in the market. But I think the biggest unlock, sorry for the pun, right? There's coming up for us, of course, there's a lot of conversations around AI, but really the way we think about it is that, for many years we have been operating in what we call the economy of tools, right? Like a lock is an object, a tool, right? A credential
Right.
is a tool as well. But really, AI is kind of shifting us towards the economy of skills and workflow, right? The kind of the tool fades into the background, everything has a layer of data intelligence on it, but really a workflow management that gets orchestrated and delivered to the customer in an easier fashion. Over the past number of years, the way that we're operating is that, let's say in APAC, we deliver our solutions to co-living operators, right? They run an entire building on igloo integrations, for example, like in Japan, especially vacation rental market is one of our most active regions. We talk about the US, right? The property managers are using AI-powered self-guided tours. There's lease automation. There's end-to-end workflows that we don't even think about because they have this experience in it. And today we're roughly about say 500 integrations on our iglooconnect platform. So I think the point that we're trying to get at is that logs are now nodes, right? They are not destinations, but the whole economy of workflow is really changing this completely, because the vision is now that what you want is that you want the property manager to be able to just use, say, natural language to just create a workflow that they want, right? Because they are all very focused on their own niche application that as a company will never be able to serve every single workflow in the world, right? And this dramatically changes the way that someone thinks about it, because you want an experience where a gym reservation will just automatically generate access, right? An Airbnb check-in should automatically trigger a door permission. In whatever use case, they can just describe the workflow by themselves, and an AI agent will build it. And so I think that this shift will then completely change the market size for all of us, right, in the access control space. Because many years ago, the smart lock industry may be just tens of billions of dollars. When you put access control and behind it and the whole identity management, it becomes say hundreds of billions of dollars. But now when you add layer on top the economy of access workflows, adding software, the AI orchestration layer, this could be a $1 trillion opportunity for all of us in this space. And then I think this is what I'm really most excited about.
So you're thinking that AI is going to help develop more solutions for like niche, you call it workflow, but like niche kind of solutions that everybody can kind of develop on their own, right, so to speak, using natural language or anything. And is this a product that you're developing? Is this in your pipeline?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, I think today we have a couple of different software platforms on our Igloo operating system stack. Right, we have our Igloo Works, which is our enterprise property management software. We have iglooconnect, which is our integration marketplace, and we have our Igloo home ecosystem, which is more resident facing, tenant facing, consumer facing. For third party to develop an API or develop a workflow around us in the past, they will take our APIs and SDK, maybe take a couple of weeks or maybe 1 or 2 months if they need SDK to build. But right now, what we're doing is that we are designing our solution to be a lot more AI friendly, right? Agentic AI friendly. So somebody can use natural language and they can now, build something using Claude or one of these co-work, within just like minutes, right? And they can just orchestrate an entire workflow, connect to our APIs, and they can just orchestrate something out very easily. It's going to be very powerful because we now no longer need to build workflow for every single use case. What we want to do is we make our API so friendly for any AI agent to understand, and build. Go ahead.
Sorry, do you think at all about the data security element of it, like when you're designing your product?
Yeah, 100%. I think the whole AI security framework is continuously progressing and improving. What we do is we continuously keep up to date with the latest data privacy laws, understanding more around AI. So we continue to keep up to date with what's the latest. And I think we have a chief data officer within the company that keeps himself abreast with what's the latest in the market, which is progressing so quickly. And I think
that's great.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So my final question to you, Anthony, is: do you recommend young people to get into the security industry?
I think if anything, now is the best time. I feel that this market is an immensely huge market. If you think about the number of buildings in the world, hundreds of billions of buildings all around the world that have yet to adopt like a smart access control platform, that is mind-boggling, right? Because I think that's where we think that this has a huge opportunity, and that is what we call the retrofit market, right? New construction is definitely building for sure, but a huge number of old buildings out there in the market that is readily available to be upgraded in a much more cost-effective fashion that has been enabled by solutions like AI and all that. I think that this will really accelerate the whole adoption of smart access control solutions of software for successful solutions over the next couple of years. So I'm excited about it for sure.
So what advice do you have for young people that are just about to go to college or just coming out of college?
I think that the number one thing is the world is changing so quickly right now, right?
Right.
So I feel that it's very important to be curious because the speed of change that we're living through right now is the fastest ever. I think in many, many decades, right? AI, agentic workflows, this whole convergence of physical and digital identity. Uh, I think these are trends as well as things that's in the market that you can't just learn about it once and you consider that you understand it. Moving so fast, right? And I do think that the work of the future, or the founders or the entrepreneurs of the future, and teams that who continuously stay curious, who keep asking, what does this mean, right, for our customers? What does it mean for our product? How do we stay relevant to the market? So I think if there's anything, I think continuously stay curious and always having a growth mindset.
I could not agree more. I think that simple thing of curiosity is not just important when as a child or as a young adult, but also as we grow older. When you stop being curious is when you're starting to die. So that's great advice.
Apart from being curious, I do think that this whole journey of entrepreneurship has also taught me the whole value of being humble. Because when you first started out, you have this whole big ambition, right? That you're convinced that you have all the answers, you know what to do. But really, the more you do, the more you realize that you don't know. There's always someone smarter out there than you, someone more experienced than you, someone who have figured things out. And the most important thing is to always challenge your own assumption and always reach out for help, right? And so that you can bring people together who are more experienced. And I guess along the way, myself, my management team, we have all been lucky because we have had mentors and partners, right, who come together to work together with us to know what it means to distribute something at scale. What does it mean to manufacture something at scale? What does it mean to work with partners at scale? And I think that this is things that no one knows it from day one, right?
True. But the other side of that is that we also have to be foolish sometimes to do something that's so crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like sending something to space, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But the audaciousness of starting something when you don't know anything and going to the USA, your whole story, there is an audaciousness to it that you have to be somewhat foolish at the same time, but that's the way it is. I 100% agree. And that's a great story. Very inspiring. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure. It's all encapsulated in our tagline, a world without keys. So, we want the whole world to be, keyless, hopefully in the next couple of years. Yeah.
I fully embrace it. It's been a great conversation. I know you have to get back to work.
And yeah, I look forward to catching up again with you, Ron, and thank you for the session today.
For those that want to reach out to Anthony or learn more about Igloo, we will add some information in the show notes. So please take a look there and reach out to Anthony. Anthony, thank you so much.
Thank you,
I'll be
Ron.
talking to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Thank you. Have a good day ahead.